Welcome to the Arts and Sounds of the Islamic World, highlighting the visual and auditory arts through a discussion and performance. This program is proudly presented to you by the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center. The Ismaili Jamatkhanas in the United States are more than places of worship and spiritual search. They are places of friendship, dialogue, and inclusivity, reaching out to our neighbors to facilitate an exchange of ideas. This is achieved through hosting cultural programs such as educational seminars and lectures, art exhibitions, music, and dance, and as a forum for civil leaders and others. These spaces hope to encourage community engagement and collaboration on issues of concern, as well as broadening intellectual horizons and fostering an appreciation of pluralism. At the opening ceremony of the headquarters of the Global Center for Pluralism on May 16, 2017, the Aga Khan explained, quote, "Pluralism does not mean the elimination of difference, but the embrace of difference. Genuine pluralism understands that diversity does not weaken a society, it strengthens it. In an ever-shrinking, ever more diverse world, a genuine sense of pluralism is indispensable foundation for human peace and progress." Unquote. As we witness events around us today, we can appreciate the continuous need for a greater understanding of communities around us and a recognition of their issues. Seminars and dialogue can shed light on civic and social issues that need addressing, and cultural programs are a useful way to understand other cultural traditions of people from around the world. In appreciation of the values of the diverse histories, backgrounds, and experiences of the people and communities with whom we share the earth, the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center strives to put forward programming that facilitates a greater understanding of our differences, with the hope of improving the collective quality of our lives. Today is no exception, and we are pleased to present a moderated discussion with Dr. Aimée Froom. Dr. Froom brings over 20 years of teaching and curating experience to her position of Curator of the Arts of the Islamic Worlds at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. She earned a BA from Brown University, an MA from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and a PhD from New York University. She also formerly was a consultant to the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, Canada. Her most recent book, Bestowing Beauty, Masterpieces of Persian Lands, selection from the Hussein Afshar collection, won 2 book awards, and she is a 2020 fellowship at the Center for Curatorial Leadership. The discussion with Dr. Froom will be moderated by Hina Jawani, a 7th-year STEP teacher and teacher lead who has taught internationally. She is also a 3rd-year docent at the Dallas Museum of Art, where she works with the Education Department. The discussion will be followed with a musical performance by folk musician Shahid Qalandar. Mr. Qalandar was born and raised in Gilgit-Baltistan. At the age of 12, he started his musical journey to master Hunza folk music. Today, Mr. Qalandar will be playing the rubab and will be accompanied by Mr. Mitbat on tabla. Without further ado, please enjoy our presentation of Arts and Sounds of the Islamic World.
Dr. Froom, thank you again for being with us here today for what I'm sure will be a creative and enlightening conversation. I know I'm really looking forward to the dialogue today. You're no stranger to the community, and it's been so wonderful to see some of the partnerships that the Museum of Fine Arts Houston has had with the Ismaili Council, from book launches to co-sponsored events, even lectures at the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center in Houston. So it's been wonderful to see this relationship between our 2 organizations in promoting art and culture. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Hina, for this kind invitation. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, and I also wanted to recognize Murada Jani, Wahida Kara, Alam Adatya, and everyone from the Ismaili Council for the Southwestern United States for making this evening's program possible. And a very special thank you. I'm just absolutely delighted that Aisha is our MC. She's also a volunteer in Art of the Islamic Worlds at the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. We really do have a beautiful partnership that stretches back over 2 decades between the Ismaili Council and the Museum of Fine Arts, Houston. Just as you mentioned, we have concerts together, lectures, book launches, artists and calligraphers demonstration. It's been a wonderful and a treasured partnership, and I look forward to our future events together as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely. I think when you say it's been so long, 2 decades. Like, I only know the last 5 years, so it's great to see how far back the relationship really does go.
Yeah, and I'm especially excited about the future. I mean, we at the museum are absolutely thrilled that the newest Ismaili Center will be built here in Houston, the first center in the United States. I know when I go to visit the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, I always stop at the center just across the plaza there. And I find it such an amazing space of contemplation and reflection. The gardens are beautiful as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the selected architect, Farshid Musavi, and then Thomas Volz, the landscape architect, will do on the many-acre space that they have here in Houston. And especially looking forward to programs that we can put on together in the future.
Absolutely. We will soon be neighbors.
Exactly.
Exciting. So, Dr. Froom, tell us more about yourself. You have been at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, but how did you first become interested in Islamic art? Some of your projects globally, what kind of steered you towards Islamic art and studying it and becoming a curator towards
Sure.
it?
So I had kind of an atypical indirect path. When I was an undergraduate at Brown University, I was studying pre-med, and I took all of my pre-med courses, and I was going to follow that path to become a doctor. And it was almost by chance that when I was visiting a museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, I went to the Islamic galleries and was just absolutely amazed by them. Didn't know much or anything about Islamic art, and I knew that I wanted to learn more. And so I went back to Brown, and we didn't teach a course, but I did an independent study and was able to continue. And I've just been studying and learning and traveling since then. And I've been very fortunate to have been able to work in the field, to meet some amazing people, see some amazing collections, and teach at a number of universities and become a curator as well over the last 20 years. And I've been very fortunate to be able to interact with the Aga Khan Trust for Culture and the collection. And my first experience actually with the museum collection is before it was a museum. This was in 2007. I was asked to work on the exhibition catalog for Spirit and Life. And that was very exciting because I got to see really a glimpse of the future. This was the nucleus. It was the nucleus of the collection that's now in Toronto, the Aga Khan Museum collection. And so I wrote all of the catalog entries. I developed the audio script for the London presentation there at the Ismaili Center. And so it was just thrilling when I moved back to the United States to be able to see the museum. And then I've also been able to see the works for the Aga Khan Development Network across the world, primarily in India, where it intersects with my research. So in Delhi, for example, Humayun's tomb, the gardens there, the Sundar Nursery, and the Nizamuddin restoration project that is going on now. And then in the Deccan, it was fabulous to see in Hyderabad, the Qutb Shah Archaeological Park, the tombs and mosques that are being preserved, and the conservation work that is being done across this multi-acre archaeological project of works from the 16th and 17th centuries has just been amazing. So I have deep respect for this.
Well, thank you. It's so great to hear your, not just how you became interested, but kind of where your career took you and the different, ways where you were able to interact with the AKDN or the Aga Khan Museum and other aspects of it. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your background in Islamic arts. With that, can you tell us a little bit more about currently about the Islamic art at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston? Why is your area called Art of the Islamic Worlds? And
Sure.
how long has it been a collection? How long has there been a collection of Islamic art at the museum?
Sure, of course. Why don't we put up the first slide so we can have an idea of context where we are in the world. So I've got day and night here on the left-hand side. This is the facade of our Beck building, Museum of Fine Arts Houston on the right. This is our law building at a little bit after sunset. So I was asked by director Gary Tintereau late in 2014 to come to Houston and expand our very small collection of Islamic art. So we were actually the youngest department in the entire museum. It was born out of an initiative which is really locally grown by Houstonians who come from all over the world. And this is one thing I love about Houston. We are the most diverse city in the United States of America. And it was in 2007 that a group of very interested museum patrons came together to form this initiative for Islamic art that was started under the previous director, Peter Marzio, and really enthusiastically taken up by our current director, Gary Tintereau. And so when I came, I was tasked with expanding the collection, expanding our presentation. And so in 2015, we can cue up the next slide, actually. There we go. I expanded our presentation from 1 to 2 galleries for the permanent collection, and we're looking at our AIW Art of the Islamic Worlds West Gallery here. And then I also expanded our presentation of a very special partnership we have with the Al Sabah collection of Kuwait. If we could have the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So this is entering the first Al Sabah gallery, and you see their wonderful 16th century Ottoman Turkish prayer carpet with the lamp suspended in the niche there. And then next to it is a Mamluk glass mosque lamp. So the Al Sabah collection is over 30 years old, based in Kuwait, and we have a unique partnership, long-term partnership with them, whereby we have a display that I installed with their curators, nearly 300 works on display, and it really gives an idea of the breadth and depth of art from across all Islamic lands, whereas our permanent collection is a bit smaller and we're growing it. The Al Sabah collection really allows us to teach from it, and we do have a lot of classroom sessions in the galleries, all of our galleries actually. So your question about why are we Art of the Islamic Worlds? That's a very deliberate title, actually, that I changed with my subcommittee here just a couple of years ago, because we felt it was really important to emphasize that it's not one world, the Islamic world. It's not a monolithic entity, but really a tapestry of worlds, celebrating our pluralism, celebrating our diversity within ethnicities, faith, geographies, cultural traditions, really embracing that. So that's why we added the S to worlds.
Great. I think that's very helpful to sort of add to the dialogue even currently happening amongst scholars and curators and museums around the world about, what is Islamic art? What is the Islamic world, singular versus Islamic worlds, plural? And I guess the next question that naturally comes to mind then, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer it here, but because it's probably like hours and hours of a discussion, but if you could, what is and how would you distinguish Islamic art then, right? And we call it Islamic art. What does that mean? I think we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
That's an excellent question, and semester-long courses are taught on this. And I have to start out by saying, in some respects, it really is a misnomer. It's a scholarly term that was developed in the 19th century. It's an imperfect one. It can mean a lot of different things, but basically, I mean, probably a simple definition, it's not perfect, is that it's art that is created in the lands around the world where there's a presence of Islam. But unlike, for example, medieval Christian art, it's not specifically religious. I mean, the slide we have up, obviously these are works that are used in the service of the religion, the mosque lamp, the prayer carpet. But Islamic art can also be a miniature painting. It can be made by a Muslim for a Muslim, or by a non-Muslim for a Muslim or a non-Muslim. It's an expansive definition. I would say there are some universalities in terms of Islamic art. For example, the highest form of Islamic art would be considered calligraphy, because this is the vehicle through which the word of God is transmitted in the Quran. So, for example, this is our Quran manuscript from the 14th century. It's dated 1318, our date. Is on the screen there. This is actually done on parchment, and I put both of these slides up because it gives you an idea of the importance of the script, but also the illumination of the script. So you can see the special markers that mark the verses and really help regulate the recitation of the Quran. And then on the left-hand side, you get an idea of the geometric motifs. So in addition to calligraphy, the importance of geometry, then as well, if we go to the next slide, there we go, vegetal motifs all throughout Islamic art. And this is one of my favorite objects, actually. This is an object that His Highness and the Ismaili Council helped support the acquisition at the very beginning of our initiative for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. It is a 16th century Ottoman Turkish tondino. Now, tondino does not sound like a Turkish word, and it is not a Turkish word. It's actually an Italian word. And what I love about this is it's just, I think it was Sheikh Hussa of Kuwait who said every object, a single object can tell so many stories. So you have many stories in this one object here. You've got the Iznik Turkish stone paste ceramic, the early 16th century blue and white vegetal palette that is actually looking towards the arts of the book and illumination, because a lot of these designs came from a central royal design studio, and then the designs were sent out to the different workshops, like the ceramicists who were based in Iznik, not near Istanbul, where the royal atelier was. And it also shows us trade. There was great trade between the Ottoman Empire and Italy, and especially in Venice, for textiles, for shapes, for motifs. And so it really shows you the richness that's seen on both sides of global trade at the time.
Yeah, no, this is great. I think following up this story that you're saying of tondino is not a word in Turkish, but rather an Italian word. So this idea of sharing knowledge, of sharing language and culture across geopolitical borders is quite apparent in some of the art and artifacts that we see. So how do you see geography and trade influencing, I guess, Islamic art, or art from the Muslim worlds, as we might want to say it better?
Well, many different ways, many different ways, and this is what I love about the field. It never ceases to surprise me too. So, if we pull up the next slide, I'll give you a clue here. This is very exciting. We've got on the left is a detail. You can see the detail of the bird, and on the right is the overall page. So this is a page that would have been pasted down into kind of a royal scrapbook or album, and it's a page that has 16th century both Persian calligraphy and Arabic calligraphy. At the top we have one of the beautiful names of God, and then we have Persian lyric poetry. And then it's been wonderfully illuminated by these little birds. And the birds were actually painted by a Mughal Indian painter. So this was done in India in the 17th century. And it was actually late 16th century. And I was trying to identify the birds, and I'm not an ornithologist. I had a terrible time. I was ready to give up. And it was one of my volunteers who said, well, why don't you reach out to the Houston Zoo? They're just across the park. You know, they must have a curator of birds. And so I did. And Chris Holmes answered my call, my email actually immediately. And it was amazing because he sent me back a response, and he gave me the formal name of the bird, which you can see on the screen, a flight map, and then what a contemporary bird looks like. And he said, but you know, I think this is really interesting because from what you're telling me, this was done in India, but this bird is actually a Chinese golden pheasant, and they were not native to India, and they still aren't. And I said, oh, well, that's actually very interesting. And he said, yeah, I think it's interesting too. Do you think it was a diplomatic gift? And I said, that exactly corroborates, you know, what we know historically is that birds and animals, amongst other things, and art were traded as diplomatic gifts. And so for me, this was just absolutely fascinating. And it was another example of how when we work together, you know, sometimes in strange and unusual ways, you know, a bird curator working with an Islamic art curator, we can add to our knowledge. And so he's identified many other birds for me, and it's been very exciting to see how a bird curator works and how an art curator works.
Well, that's, I think, such a great story to see how like the intersectionality between such different fields of work, and kind of gives hope to others who want to maybe see how they get involved in art or preservation or anything. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a curator. You can be a bird enthusiast, you know. So that's very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that story as well, Dr. Froom. And as you were mentioning, there's you know, we've been talking about geography and sort of going beyond borders. And so I suppose, how do we see the contributions of art from the Muslim worlds into that larger global world history of art? Where does it fit in?
Sure. No, many different ways. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about how even a single object can tell so many stories. Objects are also such wonderful vessels for transmitting knowledge, transmitting technical knowledge as well. If we come up to the next slide. So here we are with birds. It seems to be a theme. I've gotten very interested in birds since I've been working with Chris Holmes at the Houston Zoo. And so this is also one of my favorite little dishes. It's it might be a little bit hard to see on the screen, but this dish just glows. It's done in the luster technique. The luster technique is probably one of the most expensive luxurious ceramic techniques that exists. It requires the double firing in the kiln, the first firing, and then the second firing. So you need twice as much wood, which is often a precious commodity. And it's in that second firing that metallic oxides that have been applied to the surface of the ceramic really adhere. And then when you take it out of the kiln, you burnish it, and it just gets this wonderful lustrous shine. So this was a very special technique that we see both on ceramics and on architectural tiles in the Islamic world as early as the 9th century in Iraq. And then especially under the Fatimids in Egypt, and then really in Iran, this is a little bit later in the 13th century. And then we also see it in Al-Andalus in Spain. And it was through this conduit from Spain, coming from Malaga and Valencia to Italy, that this amazing luster technique was introduced to Europe. So that's just one example of kind of a long trade route, but a technology developed really expanded in the Islamic worlds that was transmitted then to Europe, and not to even mention, you know, scientific knowledge, medical knowledge that we all know. So the sharing of and transmission of knowledge.
Yeah, and speaking of the transition and sharing of knowledge, I know at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, you have a gallery called Collections and Conversation. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that? Because it seems like you're already sort of speaking to it.
Sure.
I'd love to hear that.
Sure. Why don't you cue up the next slide and I'll mention it. So this is a very special section that I'm really excited about. It's called Collections and Conversation, and it's on the back half of my Art of the Islamic World's West Gallery. And it's there where I really wanted to get rid of and go beyond the siloed effect that you often see in museums, when one collection, whether it's American art, European paintings, galleries are separated. And I wanted to mix it up, bring everything together, to go beyond those boundaries and those borders to show that we do have shared cultural heritages. So my first theme was on music. So you walk into the gallery, you see the 14th century Quran, and then at the far wall, you see this European musical still life, and you're wondering, what is that? I really want to draw people into the gallery. So this is a painting by Bartolomeo Betra, Italian specialist of musical still life's very small niche field. And you can see there's a guitar in there, and there are a bunch of lutes as well. And so on the right is, and I have this in the gallery, our magnificent late 19th century Ottoman lute. So the lute is an instrument. It was not invented in Islamic lands, but it was really, the oud was really developed and cherished and appreciated. And it was actually through wandering Arab musicians who were coming through Spain, who went to Sicily, and then on to the rest of Europe, that the lute becomes introduced to Europe. And so that's exciting for me, that it was kind of transmitting the knowledge, the technical knowledge of the instrument, and then the music as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think this is such an important part of museums today too, to engage the audience with this idea that, these galleries, these art pieces, they don't stand in silos. They actually are so interactive with the audience, but also each other, across cultures, across borders, and just the evolution. So this is a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing this example with us today.
Yeah. No, I can also mention that, for example, when you think about art museums and you think about art, it's so much more in terms of programming. We had the Abbas Kosamov ensemble that came to play Central Asian music for us as part of the programming for our exhibition, Colors of the Oasis, Central Asian ikats, these wonderful colored robes from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. So a very special experience for all of us, I think, who were there, is that after he and his ensemble gave the concert, he asked to go see the exhibition. And so we literally wandered. He brought his doira, the Uzbek very special traditional drum, and he had a whole group of us wandering behind him through the museum. I think we ended up picking a lot more visitors who were just casually watching us in the museum. We went into the exhibition galleries, and he was so amazed to see, a lot of these traditional ikat robes from his heritage, that he started playing the drum, and we had our own jam session. So it was a wonderful combination of both the visual arts, the music, and it was all made possible by the Aga Khan Music Initiative, and it was just this spontaneous concert in the gallery.
How fun! That's something that I'd hope to catch the next time I'm around as well. Well, so speaking of the music and dance, then, how do you see the future of art museums kind of including music and dance into the galleries, and in addition to the visual fine arts?
So this has been done for centuries, really, the combination of the visual arts, the auditory arts with music, poetry, recitation, and something that we always try to do on an annual basis, especially with our exhibitions. And I see this continuing in the future. We're expanding our campus right now. We'll be expanding our Islamic art galleries as well. And we've got the Kinder building that's opening. And so we're going to have more spaces for performances. And I'm also really excited about the new Ismaili Center, because I think one of the focus elements there will also be on performative spaces. And so you'll probably have even more space for us to further develop our partnership. And so I can't wait to see the creative directions that will be able to go together.
That'll be really interesting to see for the future, not just to further our partnership with the museum, but to see how this promotion of art, culture, music sort of happens in our society and community.
Yeah, especially in Houston, we're the most diverse, city in the United States, and I think we've got a lot of creative talent here too.
Thank you so much. I hope we are all looking forward to that wonderful future together. And I wanted to thank you again, Dr. Froom, for that insight into the world of art in not just art in general, but from the Muslim worlds, and really the intersectionality of art, culture, geography, and really just life that you were able to sort of speak to today. I know that I learned a lot from this dialogue, and I hope that our audience was able to appreciate this, what I thought was a very short time we had with you. So thank you again, Dr. Froom, for being with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, this is Shahid Qalandar. I wanted to thank Ismaili Center and Jamatkhana for this wonderful opportunity of playing for our global audience. Thank you so much and stay safe.
नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के नैना मिलाई के नैना मिलाई के नैना मिलाई के नैना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के प्रेम बटिका मधुआ पिलाई के प्रेम बटिका मधुआ पिलाई के प्रेम बटिका प्रेम बटिका मधुआ पिलाई के मतवाली कर ली नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के मतवाली कर ली नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के भल भल जाऊं मैं तोरे रंग रिझवा बल बल जाऊं मैं भल भल जाऊं मैं तोरे रंग रिझवा बल बल जाऊं मैं तोरे रंग रिझवा अपनी सी कर ली नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के अपनी सी कर ली नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के खुसरो निजाम की पल पल जाइए खुसरो निजाम खुसरो निजाम की पल पल जाइए खुसरो निजाम की पल पल जाइए वो है सुहागन नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के वो है सुहागन की नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के छाप तलक सब छी नीरे मुसरे ना मिलाई के नैना मिलाई के
Thank you, Dr. Froom, for a truly insightful discussion, and Messrs. Qalandar and Mitt for an amazing performance. Having the opportunity to learn, discuss, and experience the arts in a single program was a great experience. Thank you. On behalf of the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center, we also want to thank each and every one of you that joined virtually from your homes across the globe. We hope that you enjoyed the program as much as we did. To get more information about the Ismaili Jamatkhana and Center, please go to the.ismaili in your web browser. And for more information on upcoming programming, please go to facebook.com/the Ismaili USA. We look forward to sharing future programming with you. Thank you and good evening.